Hello, welcome. Today's episode is going to be talking about my Chick-fil-A story and how that sort of crafted out so much of who I am and where I came from, what I believe about a lot of things, and led me in large part to a lot of things I think about the fibers. My name's Joe Watkins. Welcome to the Fibers of Life and Business podcast. So if I go way back to Chick-fil-A, I was 18 years old when I started. And this is not a fast food story. This is a Chick-fil-A story because the company does so many things right. And if you're interested in business like I am, and you're interested in pulling out of great companies what actually works, Chick-fil-A is just a fantastic one. By the way, it is cold outside, but it's not cold inside. I'm wearing this because this is the only hat that I could find with Chick-fil-A logo on it. I need to fix that. But my story began in 2000. So when was it? 1994. And I worked as a server in a Chick-fil-A Dwarf house. Most of you probably don't even know what that is. There was 12 full-service Chick-fil-A's back then. They were called Dwarf houses. And I worked at one of them. And that was my first exposure to Chick-fil-A. Fast forward through many entrepreneurial experiences while I was at Chick-fil-A. I started a cleaning business. I did all kinds of things, and we'll get to that in probably further episodes. I want to fast forward really to when Chick-fil-A became really a deeper part of me. It was a teenage job back in that Dwarf house, but a few years later, several years later, I went to go work for one of the most incredible GM operators in the company for Truett's Grill, which is also a full-service Chick-fil-A restaurant. And in that experience, I saw a whole different side of Chick-fil-A. I began to see Chick-fil-A, and I was in my early 20s. I began to see Chick-fil-A as a really professional, deep-rooted company that it wasn't just a store I worked in Stockbridge, the Dwarf House, that got things right. It was clearly a cultural thing way deep within. It's a family-owned run business. Cathy, the founder, really, I think they started in 1946 with just a few dollars. He decided very early on that we were going to be closed on Sundays. And that one decision, he did it from a faith standpoint. But that one decision so crafted, I think, so many great decisions down the road. And so as I worked for this Truett's Grill, for this great operator, I learned that excellence, that a whole nother level of excellence is something I should strive for. And I mean, just a quick story there. I'm a young assistant manager, and I closed the restaurant for my first night. And I get a call at 5 o'clock in the morning. By the way, I probably went to bed at 1 o'clock. I get a call at 5 o'clock in the morning from this gentleman that ran that store. And he said, "I need you to get up here. I've got a problem." And I'm going, it's 5:30 in the morning. I haven't been in bed very long. Get up here. I go up there, and he proceeds to point out to me that there was a sink drain that was not completely clean. And boy, that stuck with me because it was a measure of the amount of excellence that we want in this store is not what you achieved. Even though I felt like I did probably the best job that ever had been done closing that restaurant, it wasn't good enough. And I don't know, Chick-fil-A is an example of that for me, but it's in so many facets. In 2001, I got my own store. Right as 9/11 was impacting our world, I opened my store a month later. So it was a really weird opening, and I'm telling you, environment was strange. I was 26 years old. I had to hire 75 people or more just to get the store open. And all of a sudden, I look like I'm 18 years old. And I have all these adults working for me. 9/11 has happened. The world has changed. And here I am running a Chick-fil-A store. And Chick-fil-A for me was synonymous with a store that was a company that was built on, let's say, hard work and biblical principles. And I got to see that when I went to my very first Chick-fil-A seminar. They do every year back then, they did a seminar where for 3 or 4 days you went to a really nice convention center, nice hotels, got treated like kings and queens. You and your wife came, most of the home office came, and we got first class leadership training and encouragement, and we got to hear the vision of the company for the next year from the leadership. And it was that year that, again, I saw a whole nother window into Chick-fil-A. But just to backtrack a little bit, when I was being selected as the operator of this store, in that operator training, another memorable thing that stuck to me, these are just nuggets, I think, to stew on, is somebody in the last part of the training, we got to eat dinner with Cathy, that had become the new president of Chick-fil-A. He's the son of Truett. And so it was the very first year I was there, he became the president. And we're at his dining room table eating dinner. And someone asked him, how fast are you going to grow this company now that you're the president? And I remember his response was, no faster than I can seat people at this dining room table. And then he went on to expand on that. And I'll tell you, what he really meant by that was that if I can't and we can't penetrate every single Chick-fil-A operator that sits in those restaurants with who we are and why we are, then we won't be who we are and we won't be successful in the future. So if we can't, as a company, take who we are and our vision and our culture and push that so deeply at the core, which means you got to be close to that, right? Or you have to have a team of people that are pulling this off, and nobody does that better than the leader of a business. And so as the leader, he felt like that's just his calling. That's what he needed to do. And that stuck with me. That painting of the vision was so critical during that process, probably more important than anything else we learned in that Chick-fil-A training. Well, then you fast forward back to my first seminar where Cathy's the new president, and he takes the company on a vision of second mile service. And we have, some of the best leadership speakers in the world, the best musicians in the world. Every single thing that happened in that seminar, that first one, and many more years to come, they were trying to represent excellence at the highest level. And that seminar was about second mile service. And he talked about how he wanted every experience at a Chick-fil-A restaurant to be memorable. He demonstrated that memory by saying, hey, one of the things that is memorable to me, that makes a huge impression on me every single time, that creates emotions that I can't subdue, is when I eat a fresh Krispy Kreme donut right off the hot track. And what did we have when we went for break? None other than thousands of fresh Krispy Kreme donuts waiting on us. So he connected the emotion to actually all senses. And I don't know, it's just that it was that year that I even further went, wow, like these guys are so intentional about what they are instilling in their people. And it was probably where I began to understand that attracting and retaining the right people with the right culture, with the right competencies, the right chemistry, was probably the most critical thing you do in any business. And I took that on into my store. And I think one of my strengths that grew in that store as a young Chick-fil-A operator, 26, 27 years old, was you instill in your people what you want and what you vision this place to be. And so I think I spent more time painting vision to my people in that store than anything else. And it served me so well over the years that as I went in future business, I did the same thing. So that was huge for me. skills are just not as important as character. Character, who, and why somebody and how they're made up is just so much more important. And so, again, I owe a great debt of gratitude to the demonstration of that in the Chick-fil-A culture. That closed on Sunday thing, recognize this. Maybe you should close on your business on Sunday. Maybe you're a retail outlet that stays open on Sunday. What's so powerful about a brand deciding to close on Sunday and staying closed at 3,000 restaurants now? Well, let's just talk practical. Your people have one day a week off. They know that they can take a Sunday off, whether they go to church or not. They get to have it. And because of that, what I got to experience is I already got to attract a little bit better people than all of my neighbor restaurants. I had a mall store. All the other mall restaurants and retail stores, I had an edge on them because I was the only restaurant or any business in the whole mall that was closed on Sunday. So it just gave me a different filter of attraction for my people. And I just think that's critical. And so, so as I continued on, I stayed there for 6 years. This owner operator position really grew me into a young business leader. Skills were being developed, marketing, branding, communication, being out front, realizing that who I was naturally wasn't probably going to work on the front counter if I'm serving guests. I had to figure out how to come out of my comfort zone. I'd just assume go back in there and bread chicken and stay in the corner and maybe have a one-on-one conversation with one of my people. But I had to be the face and the front of the business. So, back then going to that front counter during lunch hour was critical. I mean, and that taught me a ton as well. But Chick-fil-A really is synonymous for me with a company that is intentional about excellence. And they do not put profits above people. Boy, I mean, let me say that again. I experienced, and I think this is probably still true, Chick-fil-A, I never felt like put profits above people. Now, don't mistake me. Profits were important. And we had all kinds of competitive environments amongst the operators to produce profits. But I never felt from a corporate level that was more important than treating people fairly, than showing up for my people, spending the money that needed to be spent to fix the store, to improve the store, to put good uniforms on people, to set high expectations and keep the bar high the whole time that we're there. And so, I just I love it. There was a story that was told at some point in my career. I'm not real sure when this was, but this goes way back when I heard that this was a turning point for Chick-fil-A. This was when Chick-fil-A found their ground, and they found sort of their foundation. And it was before I became an operator, but the story goes that they needed to go corporately. Leadership needed to go and spend time together to really figure out who we are and where we're going, because business was taking off. It was exploding. And my understanding of the story is that it was in that leadership meeting on that retreat when they actually underscored what was actually important to them, what their corporate purpose was. And I'll say what it is. The corporate purpose of Chick-fil-A, I'm assuming today, it certainly was back then, to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us and have a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. Now look, a company with 3,000 restaurants, back then maybe 1,000, that decides that glorifying God and positively influencing people is more important than anything else, that's something to also learn, right? obviously we can't operate if we're not making money, but it's the people that make you the money. And, there's so many productive things about making your people be so important that they in turn give all they have. This is all in the fibers of life. It's how do you do something that creates a multiple return effect? Well, putting God in the center of your business is what Chick-fil-A decided to do. And I think that returned in in exponential return, things you could not have actually put in a spreadsheet. And so I just think it's a powerful, that corporate purpose. It really, it also as operators, it resonated. It was something I could grab a hold on when I was getting a little wayward, right? So, I had, 100 people I was responsible for. What kept me grounded? Well, I can tell you that was one of them. Just phenomenal. And so this idea that doing the right thing doesn't produce, well, it does produce. And Chick-fil-A has proved that time and time again. And so I just appreciate so much everything about my Chick-fil-A experience. And if I were you, I would study Chick-fil-A in a way that, just really could change the grounding and the trajectory of not just your business, but your life. And so that's my deal with Chick-fil-A. I appreciate them. We will probably bring Chick-fil-A and Chick-fil-A stories up throughout many podcasts, but I want to thank you for listening to the Fibers of Life and Business. I'm your host, Joe Watkins. Look forward to many more with you. Thank you.